Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate broker Claire Chesnoff of Claire Properties based out of Staten Island, New York. Claire is a New York State licensed real estate broker, owner, and the 2016 president of the Staten Island Board of Realtors in Staten Island, New York. As a highly trained and experienced realtor, Claire has provided real estate services for 18 years that truly exceed her customers' and clients' expectations. Testimonials from her raving fans speak to her success. She is a 5-star rated realtor. She has met rigorous requirements in education, ethics, and client satisfaction. She is in the 3% of all realtors having received her CRS designation, which is a certified residential specialist. She is an international accredited staging professional and holds designations as an ABR, a CLHMS, a certified luxury home marketing specialist, GREEN for Green Realtor Lessening Our Carbon Imprint, GRI for Graduate Realtor Institute, and SRES for Seniors Real Estate Specialist. Claire has paved the path as a successful top producer and mentor for realtors in both Staten Island and Brooklyn, New York. All right, with all that said, Claire, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Keith, for having me today. It's a great day here in Staten Island, New York, and real estate is hotter than a firecracker.
Absolutely, and we're excited to have you. Thank you for taking the time. I guess if we could start for our listeners, could you talk a little bit about what led you into real estate? Was it something that you knew you always wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
Quite frankly, Keith, I don't think anyone wakes up one day and says, guess what, I think I want to be a realtor. But what happened for me was very exciting in a way. It was a sad time for me because I was a single mom with 3 children, a 9, a 12, and a 13-year-old. And I was substitute teaching because I needed to have the time when my children were getting in and out of school and their vacation to meld with mine. And I was waiting to be assigned to a school, and unfortunately they assigned me to Manhattan, which was not really possible for me because I lived in Staten Island. I wouldn't be able to take care of the kids. So at that same time, my parents were about to sell their home, and a friend of the family said to me, you know, I'm going to be selling your parents' home. I know you have your real estate license. Why don't you come and work with me and be my assistant? And as things happened, I said, you know what? Maybe that sounds like a good idea. I'm very big into education, and so on a wing and a prayer, on January the 1st, 1998, I made the decision to start selling real estate. I worked as assistant to my mentor for approximately 3 months, and by then I had my own book of business, and I was on my way. My first year, I actually earned $27,000, and starting at my second year, I cracked 6 figures, and I haven't looked back.
And I think you're right. With everybody that we've interviewed on the show, there's been a few that have kind of, their family's been in real estate, but nobody, it doesn't seem like if you take a 6-year-old and 8-year-old and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not many kids are going to be like, I want to be a real estate agent, right? It just doesn't seem to be that, draw as, a policeman or a firefighter or a doctor or things like that.
And it's so important because we are dream makers. We have the ability to have the single largest investment that any person will be purchasing in the palm of our hand, and we really have to do it right.
Absolutely. So Claire, can you talk a little bit about what personal attributes or traits or qualities that you think have most contributed to your success, and then maybe talk a little bit about how you developed those?
Well, coming from an education background, having been a teacher, I always felt it was very important to get educated. And as anyone can see from my business card, I have 9 real estate designations after my name, which they call me the alphabet realtor. But the whole purpose was to have the ability to come to the table, whether you were buying or selling, and I would be the right person who would be able to hold your hand every step of the way and pretty much know exactly what needed to be done. I think that also being prepared and having a passion. I mean, I actually had a passion. Once the real estate bug bit me, it just has been like a candy store for me each day. I go into the office and I just can't wait to see what my day brings. I never have the same 2 days. I've always felt, too, that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, so you have to bring together a plan for buyers and sellers. And I believe that, coming to the table with all that I have in education, experience, and expertise, it's helped me to build my book of business and have raving clients and customers.
Excellent. And do you think you can give our listeners an example of when these traits have played a role in your path towards success?
Well, I have to say that it's really been a journey. And I think that treating people the way that I would want to be treated is so important. It's not a transaction. I mean, I remember doing years back an open house, and this lady coming in and saying, oh, gee, I'm not here to buy, but, I live in the neighborhood, and I was just looking at the house. And she and I spoke about real estate for a while, and she seemed to be, rather interested in what I was doing and how I actually put a plan together to sell this particular house. And so from that point on, I would be getting calls that this gal had referred me to sell with her friends to sell their houses. Now, note, I had never sold a home for this woman, but having been able to have the opportunity to sit with her, I had obviously struck a chord, and there she was, helping me out, and I helped her friends, and the rest is history.
No, I think that's great, and it speaks volumes that, like you said, if you're not focused on the money, we've had many people come on the show and talk specifically about that it's not about the money. You don't focus on the money. You focus on the people and treating others like how you want to be treated, and eventually the money comes with all that. But I think it's great that even speaks so much more that here's a lady that didn't even have a transaction with you, but you just took the time to be a person, and you talked to her, you engaged her, you kind of shared your philosophy with her, and then here she's bringing you all this business when you never really even, performed real estate services for her.
There you go. And you know what it is? In giving, you do receive. And I think you touched on one thing that's so true, Keith. It's really true that it's not about the money. I mean, let's face it, we all have to pay our bills. But it's the challenge of getting that transaction to close and seeing the smiling faces of your clients and knowing that you're the reason that this all happens. I'll never forget when I did one of my first transactions in the business. The wife, we'd closed, we'd gotten the keys to the house, and the wife came over and hugged me, and she was crying, and she says, it's all because of you we have this house. And I said, no. I said, you had great credit. You had your down payment. She said, no. She said, you made this happen. And that was just an unbelievable experience because you don't really realize how much you impact people's lives.
No, that's great. Now, obviously, you talked about getting started as a single mother and having children, so you had some adversities and trials to overcome. So can you talk a little bit about some of the adversities and trials that you've had to overcome in order to achieve your goals and have the success that you've had so far?
Well, I think the biggest adversity is time management, having enough time to do the business and to be with the family. So my mother always said to me, if you want something done, ask a busy person. So even till this day, the night before I go into the office, I make a list of what I'm going to do the next day. And I think that just keeps you in line. You may not get everything done that's on the list, but by doing that, you do have the ability to make sure that you make time for your family and that you can move certain business situations to maybe another day so that you can go to your daughter's soccer game and your son's baseball game. And that's very important as they're growing up. They need to know that the parent is there and they do love them. Even though you can tell them you love them by showing them, it's just a whole other idea.
Absolutely, and I think you pointed something out key there is, and I do it myself, and I find it keeps me, on track. Like you talked about just having a list, and it doesn't have to be, extremely detailed, but at least like, okay, here's the 5 or 6 things that I know I need to do today, no matter what, and at least make those lists so that way you can just go down and check them off, so you make sure you get everything covered. Like you said, the time management, and you could potentially have people pulling you in different directions. So to have even that basic guide of just a simple tablet with a few items listed that you can go down and make sure that you're getting everything covered for everybody.
I found that works for me.
And I guess another thing we like to look at is obviously you had these adversities and trials and things you have to overcome on a continuous basis. What kept you going despite these obstacles? Why didn't you give up? What's your driving force?
I had 3 children who had just gone through a divorce with me, and I'll never forget, over their beds, I had a beautiful picture that said justification for higher education. And what this picture showed was a garage that had 10 exotic cars, Rolls Royce, Maseratis. So I wanted my children to have the best, and they were my force that made me sacrifice as much as I did. I remember at one point my daughter said to me, "Mommy, you wear the same clothes every day. Someday I'm going to make so much money that I'm going to buy you a new wardrobe." And, it's all worth it. There's nothing more I could say.
And I guess kind of looking forward a little bit, what's your vision for your business and your career, say, over the next 5 years?
Well, this year I happen to be the president of the Staten Island Board of Realtors, and that keeps me very, very busy, besides having my own book of business. And I have a brokerage for which I am the broker owner, and I have agents. But I'm looking for the fact that I have been mentoring. I've been mentoring a number of agents over the years, and I'm looking forward to expanding my brokerage and continuing to mentor agents so that I can jumpstart their careers. I've always told agents that I've mentored that if you sit with me and you'll just cut a little piece of time and spend it with me, I can get you from A to Z without taking the rest of the letters of the alphabet into account. I always say that I've made those mistakes. I know an easier way to do it, and if you can be jump-started, why wouldn't you take that opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I myself work with mentors, and I recommend it to people because, like you said, if somebody's already fallen down and they've gotten the bruises and the cuts and the scrapes and they've already made the mistakes, why not listen to them? That's the frustrating part probably that you realize too as a parent. We try to do that with our children, and they still want to run into the wall for some reason. And like, I told you not to do that. It's going to hurt. Well, I had to do it on my own.
And that's the truth. That's so right. I found that with my kids as well.
Yeah. So kind of looking on top of that a little bit, what do you feel is the best way that you market yourself as a real estate professional so you can have continual growth?
Well, I've always differentiated myself from other realtors. Way back when I started 18 years ago, I put my picture on every marketing material that I had. And I think it helped a great deal for people to have facial recognition. Because I remember years back, I was in my local food store, and I was just shopping for the family, and a woman came up to me and said to me, "Wait, I think I know you. You're the lady from Homes and Lands magazine." So I think that was really important because people thought my signs and my face were everywhere, but I just was really keen on making sure it was in spots that many folks would pass by, and then they would recognize me. Also, I think that working very hard to do the very, very best for each of my clients, I've actually had the opportunity to receive testimonials, which have been amazing. And that has been a tremendous boost to my professional career because this is repeat business, and I'd probably say that 99% of my business is referral, which is a nice place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the point you made there is that referral to me, like you said, it's somebody that worked with you. They trusted the transaction, and you did such a good job that they want to tell everybody about it. And I think that speaks volumes that that can draw people back in based upon your reputation and how you've taken care of people.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes, and we kind of talked a little bit about this in the beginning, that, as an agent, you can pretty much, you take a little bit of training, you pass a test, and now you have a license. So now you're, I think the general misconception sometimes of the public has of agents is that, they focus on money, that they get paid too much, they don't really bring a lot to the table. And I think that a lot of times people don't realize everything that an agent does bring to the table. So can you talk a little bit about what you think the biggest misconception or myth that people have about working with a real estate agent?
I actually feel that many people today think that Google has the answer to everything. And unfortunately, Google is not always accurate. And you really need to speak with someone who is in the trenches each day and has a pulse on the real estate market, whether you're going to buy or sell. People think also, too, that it costs more money to use a realtor. Well, actually, it doesn't, because when you do sell on your own, you're not going to know what the market is actually going to bring in. You won't be able to handle multiple offers. You won't have the team of valuable attorneys, inspectors, bankers, appraisers to make that sale a success. So quite frankly, I believe that we've gotten a little bit of a bad rap because we make so much money in people's eyes. But you know what? All that education that we've gone through, all of the necessary research in order to make sure that the transaction will go through isn't taken into account. It's not a matter of finding a buyer and then saying, okay, just call me when it's time to close. It's all the hiccups that go along the way with houses not appraising and having inspection issues and architectural issues. So that's really why you need someone who absolutely knows what the real estate field entails.
Excellent. And I kind of like to give a situation here to, let's say you get a call from a family member or a friend, and they're in another state. They want to sell their home, and they're calling you for some advice. So what advice would you give them about selecting an agent that can best serve their needs? Now, I understand, obviously, you could potentially look people up and give a referral. But in general, advice, what would you tell them to look for in selecting an agent that could best take care of them, kind of how you take care of your people?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting that you say that, because I'm a certified residential specialist, and you're right. I would normally look up a certified residential specialist in another state and city, and it's like cloning me, because we've all studied together the same negotiating, finance, marketing, advertising, and appraisals. But if I was really to just tell them what should you look for, I would tell them to look for someone who cares. Somebody who is genuinely there to help you and assist you, whether you're buying or selling, and wants to take the time to sit down and put together a plan. And that way, if you have a plan in place, you'll be able to have a very successful closing.
Excellent. And if somebody needs a real estate agent, especially in the, obviously you're in the Staten Island area, what's the best way that they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
Well, if they're interested in selling or buying in Staten Island or Brooklyn, New York, because we service both of those boroughs, it would be great if they could call me at my cell, which is my direct number, which is 917-974-2238, or they could email me at claire@claireproperties.com, or just go on the web and go to claireproperties.com, and they can read all about me and get in touch with me from there.
Excellent. Well, Claire, we want to thank you, obviously, for taking time out of your schedule and coming today and sharing all your professional real estate experience with our listeners. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about Claire, you can obviously go to her site, like she said. Also, below this interview, we're going to have a link to her website, as well as any other contact information or phone number and email address, so that you can get in touch with her and see if it's a good fit for you to work with Claire. So with that said, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.